Unit 1, page 4. Read.
Connected. Most of us hardly go anywhere today without a cell phone, an iPad, or a laptop, or so it seems. We're trying to communicate with each other 24/7. We want to be connected. How do we accomplish this? We access the internet to contact friends on Facebook or Twitter. We send and receive emails, write and read blogs, call others, and text them on our cell phones. We're available most of the time. Is this constant communication good? I think it's positive overall, though there are some downsides to living digitally. My 17-year-old daughter Allison is an excellent example. She has joined the social networking sites Facebook and Twitter. Facebook has been around since 2005 and Twitter since 2006. This evening, Allison is sitting in front of her computer. She's reading posts from her friends and writing responses. At the moment, she's laughing, probably at a picture or amusing comment. She's having a great time, but she still hasn't done her homework, and she probably won't finish it until very late tonight. Then there's my 15-year-old son, Nick. It seems that he just can't do without his cell phone, which he's had since his birthday 4 months ago. Right now, Nick is texting friends. He's been doing that for the last half hour and shows no signs of stopping. I'm afraid that Nick spends far too much time on his phone and that it's affecting his powers of concentration. Nick's teachers say he isn't doing well in the classroom. They've been having difficulty getting his attention. Then there's my wife, Elena, who loves email. After dinner every night, Elena gets out her laptop, logs on to the internet, and reads and answers her messages. These days, she's getting hundreds of email messages a week, and she's having trouble staying on top of them. This makes her feel stressed out. And then there's yours truly. I go to the office 3 days a week and telecommute the other 2. When I'm working at home, I write a blog. By the way, do you know the origin of the word blog? It's a contraction of weblog, which is a type of website. On my blog, I write regular entries and comment on what others say. I really enjoy doing this, but it takes up a lot of my time. In addition, I start to feel anxious if I don't update it frequently. Staying in near constant communication with others often leads to stress. It tends to prevent us from spending quiet time alone, from reading, from enjoying nature. It can be addictive. It can have undeniably negative effects on our ability to work or study efficiently. There are a few downsides to living digitally. Does that mean we should limit our exposure to the digital world? As with so many other things in our lives, we need to put things in perspective. Most people realize that there are many advantages associated with frequent communication with others. Through texting and the internet, my family and I find out important news almost immediately, and we stay in touch with friends we seldom see. So, would we give it all up? Not on your life.
Unit 1, page 13. Exercise 6. Listening.
What are you doing, Jim?
I'm checking out toys on the internet. Whoa! Look at the awesome action figures on this website. They only cost $5 each. Can I buy some?
I don't know, Jim. Let me check out the website first. Sometimes websites aren't safe.
Why?
Well, When you pay for things on some insecure websites, criminals can see your personal information. They sometimes steal that information. You've heard of identity theft? Well, this is a good example of it.
What do the criminals do with your information?
Well, for example, they use your credit card number to buy things for themselves.
Uh-oh. Has this ever happened to anyone we know?
Yes, it has. Uncle Jerry. He's been buying music online for a long time now, and he's never had any problems until 2 months ago. That's when he downloaded some music from a website and used his card to pay for it. They said it was a secure site, but apparently it wasn't. So someone stole his credit card number. He just found out that the person has charged a lot on his card. $8,000.
So what happens now? He doesn't have to pay the $8,000, does he?
Probably not, but he might have to pay something. You're supposed to report thefts like this immediately, and he didn't.
That's terrible.
I know. That's why we need to be careful about buying things online.
But it's so easy to buy things on the internet.
Yeah, the internet makes things easy. Maybe too easy. It's easy for us to get information, but it's also easy for criminals to get it. That's the problem with the internet.
Unit 2, page 18. Read.
That special someone. Intercultural marriage is on the rise, not only in North America, but in other parts of the world as well. An intercultural couple consists of two people who have different cultural backgrounds. They may come from different countries or from different regions in the same country. They may have different religions, or they may come from different ethnic groups. These couples may have found true love, but they often face difficult and unique challenges. The divorce rate among partners in intercultural marriages seems high, but such marriages can work under the right circumstances, as we will see by examining the case of one intercultural couple. Both Hector Garcia and Jessica Chapman were born in the United States, but their backgrounds are 180 degrees apart. Hector's parents came to the United States from Mexico decades ago. They settled in California, and by the time Hector was born, they had earned their American citizenship. Hector had to work to be able to afford college. Jessica, in contrast, grew up in a wealthy Caucasian family in New England. Her parents paid for her college expenses, so she didn't have to work. Hector and Jessica met in biology lab in their senior year of college, and it was a case of love at first sight. After they graduated, Hector asked Jessica to marry him. Hector says, "I used to think I would marry a Hispanic woman whose background was similar to mine, but the minute I met Jessica, I knew she was the one for me." Jessica felt the same and accepted Hector's proposal, and for a while, everything went smoothly. Pretty soon, though, problems arose. Jessica explains.
I thought our relationship was going to stay the same as it had always been. I didn't think we would ever argue about anything. But Hector wanted to buy a house, and he refused to accept any help from my parents. He was working long hours, and I didn't think he was paying enough attention to me. It occurred to me that work had become his top priority. Furthermore, I didn't feel comfortable with Hector's family. We would go to gatherings at his family's house most weekends. Everyone would be talking at once, and I would feel shut out. Eventually, I got so frustrated that I was ready to leave him. Fortunately, I had a heart-to-heart talk with a close friend who was also in an intercultural marriage. She advised me to think about what motivated Hector and to try to understand the culture and values of his extended family. I realized that because he had grown up in a family without much money and had married a woman from a wealthier background, it was important for Hector to do things on his own. That's why he didn't want to rely on help from my father. I realized that I'd been wrong about several things. His family wasn't trying to shut me out at their gatherings. They were just a typical Mexican family who liked to talk. I also realized I hadn't been giving Hector's family a fair chance. Since then, his mother and I have become really good friends, and Hector's and my relationship has improved greatly.
This is a case of an intercultural marriage that has worked. One key point emerges from Hector and Jessica's story. Partners in an intercultural marriage should try to understand and acknowledge the cultural values of their spouses and their extended families. If they do, they may well be able to sustain their relationship with that special someone.
Unit 2, page 30. Exercise 8. Listening.
In other news, the first ever wedding of a couple jumping from a plane in parachutes took place yesterday in the skies near San Diego, California. Tracy Chadwick and Sunil Kapoor hired a minister, Reverend Robert Martinez, to jump with them out of a twin-engine Cessna and marry them in the air before they landed. Chadwick and Kapoor have known each other for 8 years and have been members of the Soaring Skydivers for 2 years. To date, each of them has made over 15 jumps. Interviewed as to why they wanted to get married in such an unusual way, Kapoor said,
"We're just adventurous souls, I guess. We like new and different things. When I emigrated to the United States from India several years ago, I wanted to try a lot of new and different things in my new country, things I couldn't do in India. So I started doing parachute jumping. Tracy was really interested in jumping too. When we decided to get married, we knew we didn't want a conventional wedding."
Chadwick agreed, adding,
"We were going to get married on a bungee jump, but when we got to thinking about it, we decided that would be just a little too dangerous. Plus, we couldn't find a minister who would jump with us."
Reverend Martinez had never made a parachute jump before yesterday. Asked if he had ever performed such an unusual wedding ceremony before, Martinez responded, "No, I think this one is the oddest. I used to be a pastor in Arizona. I would get some fairly out-of-the-ordinary requests. I mean, for example, once I married 2 people on horseback, but nothing quite like this." Would he do another parachute jumping wedding? Or even another parachute jump? "I don't think so," Martinez said. "No, I think this is one for the scrapbook. At this point, I can just say, been there, done that." That's news on the half hour. Stay tuned for our next broadcast at the top of the hour.
Unit 3, page 35. Read.
Get the most out of it. So, you're visiting some new countries this year. You already have your tickets and you leave in exactly 4 weeks. A month from now, you'll be relaxing in the sunshine or touring famous landmarks. But are you prepared to maximize the enjoyment of your experience? In my capacity as Times travel editor, I've been journeying abroad since 2007, so I've learned a few things. In this week's column, I'm going to give you suggestions in 5 areas that will help you get the most out of your trip. First tip, jet lag. If you've ever flown a significant distance away from your home time zone, you know lack of sleep is a problem. By the time you arrive, you'll have been flying for 8 to 10 hours and won't be able to keep your eyes open. Then your entire body will be out of whack for days. Some effects of jet lag are inevitable, but here's my suggestion for minimizing them. Take a late afternoon or evening flight and make every effort to sleep on the plane, even if it's only for an hour or so. When you land, it will probably be late morning or early afternoon. Stay up until evening. Don't take a nap no matter how excruciatingly tired and sleepy you feel. That way, you'll fall into a new rhythm as naturally as possible. Your body will adjust much more quickly. Second tip, tours. If you've been abroad before, I'd say go ahead and chart your own course. If you haven't, join a tour group. You can get excellent package deals that include accommodations and tours that hit the high points. Good tour leaders will show you the things you want to see. You'll make new friends and learn a lot. Yes, it's true that tours can be hectic and intense. They're worth it, though. Third tip, accommodations. Consider using Airbnb, a website that started in 2008. It's an online marketplace that links people who have property to rent with visitors who are looking for a place to stay. If you want to use Airbnb, you'll need to go to their website and create an account. Then you'll be able to find all kinds of lodging situations, everything from an air mattress in the corner of someone's living room to an entire home or apartment. You can stay in boats, castles, and even igloos and tree houses. You'll certainly meet interesting people, too. Fourth tip, money and valuables. Resist the temptation to carry your money, passport, or other valuables in a purse or wallet. Keep them in a money belt instead. Potential thieves will be out in force everywhere you go. They'll have a lot more difficulty stealing from a money belt worn around your waist under your clothes. Fifth tip, language and culture. Few things will please the inhabitants of the countries where you're going more than if you make an effort to learn something about them. Buy a phrase book and start acquiring some of the basics of the language. Begin now, and you'll have learned enough to accomplish some basic communication by the time you arrive. Discover a bit of the history. Try to step out of your own mindset and put yourself into the shoes of the people who live there. So, there you have it. Take my advice. By the time you get home, you'll have acquired some wonderful memories for your mental scrapbook. Make it the trip of a lifetime.
Unit 3, page 44. Exercise 6. Listening.
Tim? Come on! We're gonna be late if you don't get up right now.
Why? Where are we going?
To the Historical Museum, remember?
Do we have to? Amy and I want to go to the mall. It's the best one in Edmonton.
That's right, Mom. Museums are boring.
But this is a really interesting museum. There'll be all kinds of things to learn.
Why do we have to learn things when we're on vacation?
Dad, can't you and Mom drop us off at the mall? Then you can go to the museum.
It's all arranged, kids. We're meeting the tour bus at 9:30. In fact, if we don't get down to the lobby, we're going to miss it.
Oh no, not a tour.
Yes, sometimes a tour is the best way to see things.
I hate tours. If we have to go to the historical museum, can't we at least go by ourselves?
Come on, kids. We're gonna be late.
Can we go to the mall later?
Sure. Tell you what, the tour will be over by 12:30. As soon as we get back from the tour, we'll go to the mall.
Can we go ice skating at the mall?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we've got reservations for all of us to skate.
Cool, Mom.
Unit 4, page 52. Read.
What we should and shouldn't have done. A few months ago, my company sent me to work at our branch office in Japan. My colleague Masayuki and Yukiko, his wife, invited my wife Helen and me out to dinner one night. Although they were very polite and friendly, we didn't feel that the evening went all that smoothly. In fact, we had the impression that we'd made some mistakes in etiquette. I asked my friend Junichi about our experience. He's lived in Japan and the United States, so he knows the cultural differences. He gave me several pointers, so now we know what we should and shouldn't have done at the dinner. Junichi's first tip was about shoes and sitting down. Some Japanese restaurants have Western-style furniture, but our restaurant had pillows you sit down on. We knew you're supposed to take your shoes off in a Japanese home. It never occurred to us, though, that we should take them off when we sat down on the pillows. Junichi said we definitely ought to have done that. His second pointer was all about chopsticks. We'd both used them a couple of times at Asian restaurants in the United States, albeit not very skillfully, and we thought we knew the rules for using them. However, I saw Masayuki grimace a bit when I used a chopstick to spear a piece of meat from a bowl and pass it to Helen. He grimaced again when Helen used one of her chopsticks to point at a bowl of food she thought was tasty. Junichi chuckled.
One thing you absolutely mustn't do is use a chopstick to spear food and pass it to someone else. That reminds Japanese people of the custom of passing cremated bones at a funeral. And you must never point with a chopstick.
We continued to make a few more blunders. I took a bottle of soy sauce on the table and poured it all over my rice. Yukiko seemed a bit shocked when she saw what I was doing. Junichi chuckled again.
You shouldn't ever pour soy sauce directly onto your food. What you have to do is pour soy into a little dish next to your plate and then dip your food into it. And you've also got to be careful not to waste the soy. Just pour a small amount of it into the dish.
Then I remembered another point of etiquette. Do you have to finish everything on your plate? I asked Junichi. Towards the end of the meal, Helen still had some food left, but then our waiter brought her some more.
If you've finished everything, that basically means you're satisfied with the meal and don't want any more. If you still have food on your plate, you're signaling that you want another helping,
replied Junichi. The next pointer was about not using your handkerchief. I'd been suffering from allergies for a week or so, and suddenly I felt I had to blow my nose. I got out my handkerchief and did so. Both Masayuki and Yukiko again looked somewhat surprised. What did I do wrong? I asked. Junichi responded,
You're not supposed to blow your nose in public. It's not considered appropriate.
What should I have done? I was desperate.
Well, you could have gotten up and gone to the toilet. Or you could have sniffled.
I thought that sounded odd. Sniffled?
Yes, it's considered acceptable to sniffle to avoid blowing your nose.
Finally, the dinner was over. As we got up to leave, I asked Masayuki if we could split the bill with him. He looked troubled and said, No. He and Yukiko walked ahead of us to pay. I said to Helen, Well, hadn't we better leave a tip? She nodded, so I left some cash on the table. Just as we were putting our coats on at the restaurant entrance, our waiter came running up to us and handed me back the money. When I asked Junichi about it, he said,
You're not supposed to leave tips in Japan. It's not common at all.
I asked what we might do to express our appreciation to Masayuki and Yukiko. Shall we reciprocate by inviting Masayuki and Yukiko out?
Yes, I think you ought to do that.
Junichi had given me good advice, I thought. What really struck me is how much we all have to learn about other cultures.
Unit 4, page 58. Pronunciation note. Modals and modal-like auxiliaries are often reduced in rapid speech and in conversation. Note that the full forms are also acceptable. Have to is pronounced as have to.
We have to leave now.
Has to is pronounced as has to.
She has to work today.
Should have is pronounced as should've before a vowel.
I should have eaten a bigger lunch.
Should have is pronounced as shoulda before a consonant.
You should have called sooner.
Could have is pronounced as could've before a vowel.
They could have invited us to the party.
Could have is pronounced as coulda before a consonant.
You could have brought some flowers.
Might have is pronounced as might've before a vowel.
He might have advised me to do that.
Might have is pronounced as might'a before a consonant.
You might have told me about that.
Supposed to is pronounced as supposed to.
You're not supposed to do that.
Had better is pronounced as better.
We better get going.
Ought to is pronounced as oughta.
Bob ought to study harder.
Got to is pronounced as gotta.
We've got to leave now.
Unit 4, page 62. Exercise 5. 1,
We have to take a gift to the party.
2,
We should have had them over for dinner.
3,
We're supposed to have dinner at their house on Monday.
4,
You could have declined their offer to have a drink.
5,
We had better leave now.
6,
You might have gotten them some flowers.
7,
He wasn't supposed to be here until Monday.
8,
The gift has to be wrapped.
9,
We ought to go to a movie tonight.
10,
You should have eaten your vegetables.
11,
We've got to get going soon.
12,
You might have asked me if I wanted to go.
13,
She could have accepted the job offer.
14,
You better not mention politics at the dinner table.
Unit 4, page 64. Exercise 7. Listening.
Hello? Hi, Bev. This is Dad.
Dad, where are you? Mom's surprise party is supposed to start in half an hour. Everybody's already shown up. We're just waiting for you and Ray and Mom.
Well, here's the problem, Bev. Ray and I are at the department store trying to find a gift for your mom, and we can't come up with anything. Do you think we could get away with not giving her a present today? If we took a little more time, we could find something really nice.
Dad, of course not. Everybody who's here has brought something. If you don't bring a present, you and Ray will be the only ones. And Dad, remember what you told me when I was younger? Don't put things off till the last minute?
Yes, honey, I know. We should have gone shopping last week. But what do you suggest?
What about a camera?
She's got 3 cameras. In fact, she just got rid of one of her old cameras last week.
How about clothes?
Ah, great idea. A dress, maybe?
Dad, you can't just buy her a dress. She'd never buy a dress without trying on several first.
Well, Bev, we're running out of time here. Can't you think of something?
Well, you could get her a blouse. She loves blouses.
No way, Bev. I tried that once. and your mother hated what I got her.
Well, let's see. How about a couple of nice scarves?
Good. What material? What color?
Why don't you look for a couple of silk scarves in some conservative color?
Good idea. Will do. Hey, you don't think your mother has figured out what's going on, do you?
No, I'm sure she hasn't. She thinks we're all going to a concert this afternoon. She says she's really looking forward to it.
Great. We'll get there as soon as we can.
Okay, Dad, but hurry up. Mom could be home any minute.
Unit 5, page 69. Read.
Who really discovered America? A well-known school rhyme goes like this. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and then discovered America. However, Columbus may not have been the first non-Native American to visit the Western Hemisphere. So many other potential discoverers have been nominated that the question might almost be rephrased as, who didn't discover America? What does history show? Who really discovered the New World? Those suggested include the Vikings, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Egyptians, the Hebrews, the Portuguese, and some Irish monks. The Vikings are the best-known contenders. Evidence suggests that Leif Erikson and cohorts visited the New World about the year 1000, almost 500 years before Columbus. Viking records and New World artifacts indicate they arrived at a place they named Vinland the Good, the land of grapes. Scholars originally hypothesized that Vinland must have been Newfoundland. Today, however, it is believed that Vinland couldn't have been that island since it is too far north for grapes to grow. Could the climate have been warmer in Erikson's day? Perhaps. However, current thought is that Vinland may have been the New England coast. The Japanese are more recent candidates. Pottery fragments discovered in 1956 on the coast of Ecuador date back about 5,000 years. These fragments resembled Japanese pottery of the same era, and it has been established that there was no native pottery in Ecuador in 3000 BCE. Could the Japanese have introduced it? Smithsonian Institute scholars conclude that individuals may have sailed from Japan across the Pacific to Ecuador, or Japanese fishermen might have been swept out to sea and carried 10,000 miles, 16,093 kilometers, across the ocean. This theory may sound unlikely and may eventually be disproved. Nonetheless, the pottery evidence must mean something. One interesting theory stems from the story of Saint Brendan, a 6th century Irish monk who made many voyages to establish monasteries. A 6th century document suggests that Brendan made a journey far out into the Atlantic, reports of which may have influenced Columbus to believe that there really was a new world. Brendan and his fellow monks saw sea monsters, crystals rising up into the sky, and a rain of bad-smelling rocks. In 1976, British navigation scholar Tim Severin decided to see if Brendan and his companions could really have accomplished this voyage. Using the specifications described in the St. Brendan text, they built a curragh, an Irish leather boat, and attempted the journey. On the way, they passed Greenland and wintered in Iceland, where they saw whales, a volcano, and icebergs. They theorized that Brendan's sea monsters might have been whales, the ice crystals, icebergs, and the bad-smelling rocks, volcanic debris. Severin's group did eventually get to Newfoundland, proving that Akura could have made the journey to North America. Religious artifacts and stone carvings bearing vocabulary and grammatical constructions from Old Irish have been found in Virginia. This suggests that other missionaries could have gone to the New World after Brendan's return. Thus, the story may be true. But back to the original question. Who really discovered the New World? Future research should get us closer to an answer. Columbus and the others mentioned above did not, of course, really discover America. The real finders were the Native Americans who migrated across the Bering Strait more than 10,000 years ago. In any case, even if Columbus did not discover the New World, no one disputes that he started two-way communication between the Old World and the New. In that sense, his reputation is still safe.
Unit 5, page 79. Exercise 6A. Listening.
Okay, folks, today we're going to talk about hearing. I want to begin by telling you about an experience I had when I heard my voice on tape during an anthropology class when I was in college. The professor recorded our voices and then played them back. When I heard mine, I didn't think it was my own voice. I said, "That couldn't have been me. There's gotta be some mistake. I don't sound like that." Now, I'd venture to say that all of you must have had this kind of experience at one time or another. Am I right? Let me see a show of hands. Just as I thought. So, first, let's talk about this question. Why do we hear our own voices differently than others do? Based on what we've been studying, you should be able to figure this out.
I think it must be because we're hearing the sound in a different way.
Very good, Allison. You've got the right idea. Now, does anybody want to expand on that? Bart?
It could be because the sound is traveling through different substances. When somebody speaks, the sound of that person's voice comes to us through the air, but we hear our own voice through our head.
Good. Kathy, can you add something?
I agree with Bart when he says we hear our own voices through our own heads. But don't we also hear them through the air? When our voices come out of our mouths, we can hear them through our ears, can't we?
That's true, and our ears are actually behind our mouths. That has to affect the way we hear our own voices.
Yes, you're both right. You see, when you hear your own voice, you hear partly through your ears externally. And as you point out, Bart, your ears aren't well placed to receive sounds coming from your mouth. But you also hear through the bone in your head and through the fluid in your inner ear, internally. Most of the sound that you hear internally comes through liquid.
What about the quality of the recording devices? It could be that they're not as accurate as they're supposed to be. When we hear our voice on a recording, it may not sound the way our voice really sounds.
Another good comment. You're right. Recordings do distort the sound of our voices. But there's another issue I wanted to touch on. A lot of people don't like the sound of their own voice, especially when they first hear it. Why do you think this might be the case?
I think in a lot of cases they may lack self-confidence. They hear their own voice, and it sounds weird, as bad as they expected.
I think it must be the opposite. Some self-confident people may have a high opinion of their own voice, but when they hear it, it sounds different from what they think they sound like, so they don't like it.
I don't think this has anything to do with self-confidence. People want to feel like they know themselves.
When your voice doesn't sound the way you expect it to, it makes you feel uncomfortable. That might be why you don't like it.
Unit 5, page 79. Exercise 6B. Listening. 1,
That couldn't have been me.
2,
There's got to be some mistake.
3,
All of you must have had this experience at one time or another.
4,
You should be able to figure this out.
5,
It must be because we're hearing the sound in a different way.
6,
It could be because the sound is traveling through different substances.
7,
That has to affect the way we hear our own voices.
8,
It could be that they're not as accurate as they're supposed to be.
9,
I think it must be the opposite.
10.
That might be why you don't like it.
Unit 6, page 86. Read.
Did he get away with it? Have you ever heard of Dan Cooper? He was the central figure in a crime that happened decades ago and still hasn't been solved. Late in November of 1971, on a short flight between Portland, Oregon and Seattle, Washington, a flight attendant was handed a note by a mysterious middle-aged man dressed in a dark suit. Leaning close to her, he said, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." He then opened his briefcase so that she could see several red cylinders and a lot of wires. The man, who used the alias Dan Cooper, was demanding $200,000, worth about $1,160,000 in 2015 dollars, 4 parachutes, and a plane to fly him to Mexico. The plane proceeded to Seattle, with none of the other passengers even aware it was being hijacked. The passengers got off the plane, and Cooper got what he was demanding: $200,000, all in $20 bills that had been photocopied by FBI agents so they could easily be identified. Then the plane was refueled and took off for Mexico with only Cooper and 5 crew members on board. Once the flight was underway, Cooper ordered the flight attendant to go to the cockpit and stay there. As she was leaving, she noticed him trying to tie something around his waist, presumably the bag of money. Then he opened the plane's rear stairway and jumped out of the plane. The crew felt pressure bumps that were probably caused by Cooper's jump. The air temperature was 7 degrees below zero. Cooper was not equipped with any survival gear and was wearing only light casual shoes. Cooper has not been seen or heard from since that night. Who was he? Did he get away with his plan? Or was he killed trying to commit the perfect crime? Authorities speculate that Cooper landed near Ariel, a small town near the Columbia River, north of Portland. Only one real clue has been discovered. In 1980, an 8-year-old boy inadvertently dug up $5,880 of Cooper's money near a riverbank. It was only a few inches below the surface of the earth, but it had decayed so much that only the picture and the serial numbers on the bills were visible. Rotting rubber bands were found along with the money, indicating that the cash had to have been deposited there before the bands fell apart. Since then, the area has been searched thoroughly, but no trace of Cooper has been found. What really happened? Many investigators believe that Cooper must have been killed by the combination of the weather conditions and the impact of his fall. But if so, why have none of his remains ever been discovered? Is more information known than has been revealed? Is Cooper's body in some remote part of the wilderness area into which he jumped? Or is he living a luxurious life under an alias somewhere? Did he have the $5,880 buried by an accomplice to throw the authorities off the track? Or did he bury it himself? After all these years, one can legitimately ask why this case hasn't been solved. Cooper has become a legend. His story has been told in books and articles, and even in the movie, The Pursuit of D.B. Cooper. In Ariel, the hijacking is still celebrated every year. Notwithstanding the FBI's claims that Cooper could not have survived the jump, some believe that he did. Local bar owner Donna Elliott says he did get away with it, so far. Others don't think so. Jerry Thomas, a retired soldier who has been working independently on the case, thinks that Cooper didn't survive the fall, and his body will eventually be found. I know there is something out here, he says. There has to be. Will this case ever get solved? Who knows? As of July 2016, none of the missing money had been recovered. Interest in the case of Dan Cooper has not diminished, and it remains the only unsolved air piracy case in American aviation.
Unit 6, page 100. Exercise 8. Listening.
Okay, Mr. Akimura, just a few questions about the koala that was stolen. I understand that the koala's keeper was found unconscious by a janitor. What time was this?
About 8 p.m. The laboratory and food preparation area gets cleaned every evening after the animals have been fed. The janitor was just starting his work when he noticed the keeper lying behind a table.
Had the keeper been hit?
No, there were no marks of any kind on his body. I had him examined by our resident physician. Apparently he'd been drugged. He's all right now.
Have any other animals been stolen?
Well, yes, as a matter of fact. 2 sea turtles were taken a couple of weeks ago.
Why weren't we notified immediately?
Well, as you may know, we want to expand the zoo, and we need money to do it. An expansion proposal is being put forward in the upcoming election. We can't complete the expansion unless our proposal gets a 50% yes vote in the election. But the proposal isn't likely to get approved by the voters if they hear that animals are missing.
Do you have any idea why these animals were taken? And by whom?
Well, they're very valuable. They could be sold on the black market for a lot of money. We can only imagine that some underworld group is behind this.
What about the janitor?
What do you mean?
Well, is he reliable? Has his background been checked?
I'm not totally sure. He gave us good references when he was interviewed. I presume some checking was done, but I suppose we should look into it.
That's all right. I'll get his references checked out when I go back to the office. We'll be in touch, Mr. Akimura.
Unit 7, page 105. Read.
The Strangest of Peoples, adapted from an article by Horace Minor. For many years, anthropologists have studied strange and unusual peoples all over the world. One of the strangest is a group called the Nakirema, the predominant tribe of the North American continent. The territory of the Nakirema is located between the territories of the Canadian Cree and the Tarahumara of Mexico. In the southeast, their territory is bordered by the Caribbean. Relatively little is known of the origin of this people, though they are said to have come from somewhere to the east. In fact, the Nakirema may be related to certain European and African peoples. Nakirema people spend a great deal of time on the appearance and health of their bodies. In Nakirema culture, the body is generally believed to be ugly and likely to decay. The only way to prevent this decay is through participation in certain magical ceremonies. Every Nakirema house has a special shrine room devoted to this purpose. Some Nakirema houses have more than one shrine room. In fact, it is felt in Nakirema culture that the more shrine rooms a family has, the richer it is. What is in the shrine room? The focal point is a box built into the wall, inside of which is a large collection of magical potions, medicines, and creams. Below the box is a small fountain from which water is obtained. Every day, each member of the Nakirema family enters the shrine room, bows to the chest, and receives magic holy water from the fountain. Several rituals in Nakirema culture are performed by one sex or the other, but not by both. Every morning, for example, a Nakirema man places a magic cream on his face and then scrapes and sometimes even lacerates his face with a sharp instrument. A similar ritual performed only by women involves the scraping of the legs and underarms. In Nakirema culture, the mouth is regarded as a highly significant part of the body. The Nakirema are fascinated by the mouth and believe its condition has an important and supernatural effect on all social relationships. The daily body ritual involves an activity that would be considered repulsive in some cultures. It is reported that the Nakirema actually insert into their mouths a stick, on one end of which are plasticized hairs covered with a magical paste. They then move these sticks back and forth in their mouths in highly ritualized gestures. Among the most important individuals in the culture are the holy mouth people. Nakiremans visit these practitioners once or twice a year. They possess excellent sharp instruments for performing their magic ceremonies. They place these instruments in the mouths of the Nakiremans. If there are holes in the teeth, they are enlarged with these tools. Then a supernatural substance is placed in each hole. It is said that the purpose of this practice is to prevent decay in the teeth and especially to help Nakirema people to find spouses. Another significant person in Nakirema culture is the listener, a witch doctor who is thought to have the power to get rid of the devils in the heads of people who have been bewitched. Nakiremans believe parents often bewitch their own children, especially while teaching the secret toilet rituals, and the listeners must unbewitch them. It is also believed that the secret to getting rid of these devils is simply to talk about them, usually while reclining on a sofa. Clearly, the Nakirema are a magic-inspired tribe. Much more research is needed in order to understand this strange people.
Unit 7, page 116. Exercise 7. Listening.
We interrupt our regularly scheduled program to bring you this news bulletin. A massive series of earthquakes has struck the nation, causing extreme damage to most major cities. One of the earthquakes is said to have registered a 9 on the Richter scale, although this information is considered preliminary. The Minister of Science has stated that the epicenter of the quakes was located in the Atlantic Ocean, some 40 miles west of Gibraltar. According to unconfirmed reports, vast sections of the coastline are reported to be underwater as a consequence of a gigantic tsunami that hit the coastal areas after the earthquakes. The exact number of casualties of the tsunami is not known, although it is estimated that more than 200,000 people have drowned. Serious flooding is believed to have occurred in cities farther inland. The president, who was vacationing at his mountain retreat, has returned to the capital. Looting is alleged to be taking place in most major cities. It is assumed that the president will be speaking to the nation shortly in an effort to reestablish law and order. As he was boarding his plane for the flight to the capital, the president said, "A grave tragedy has struck our nation. It is to be hoped that the citizens of Atlantis will conduct themselves in a calm, gentle, and law-abiding manner in our time of need." In the meantime, Atlanteans are advised to gather provisions and to head for the highest ground that they can find. Stay tuned for further bulletins.
Unit 8, page 124. Read.
Friends. I was having trouble finding a subject for this week's column until my wife Amanda said, "What about friendship? Talk about that. You have lots of friends." I thought about that a while and realized my perspective on friendship has changed considerably. When I was a boy, I had the naive notion that friends were either true or false, but now I recognize the complexity of friendship. There are many types of friends. In fact, I can identify at least 5 types. Type 1. Convenience friends. These are the friends we make when our schedules and activities coincide. Years ago, I was starting a new job and didn't have a way of getting to work easily. I tried taking the bus, but the commute was ridiculously long. Then I learned that Andres, a coworker, lived near me. He had a car, and it was convenient for him to pick me up. We became friends by riding with each other and developed a good relationship. We didn't get together outside the work context, though. Type 2. Special interest friends. My brother, whose passion is kayaking, belongs to a kayaking club. He's made several good buddies at meetings and on river trips. They have exciting times when they go kayaking. Likewise, living through dangerous experiences has made them close. Once the trips are over, though, they don't socialize with each other. Their special interest is the only thing that holds them together. Type 3. Online friends. Online friendship is a new phenomenon made possible by technology. Communicating with people online has never been easier. Many people today have a rather wide circle of friends that they rarely or never meet in person, but whom they regularly talk to or exchange messages with online. But there can be a downside. If someone says something upsetting on social media, for example, it's easy to abandon the relationship just by unfriending that person. However, if one is willing to commit to staying friends, the friendship can be rewarding and fulfilling. We can be online friends with interesting people all over the world that we might never be able to meet in person. Type 4. Part of a couple friends. My wife Amanda and Greta, the wife of my buddy Bill, are good examples of this common type of friendship. When our partner has a friend in another couple, we have to go through the often difficult process of getting to know the other person in that couple. People may feel they have little or nothing in common with their counterpart and may even resent having to socialize with a friend they don't find compatible. Fortunately, Amanda and Greta have become good friends on their own through their common interest in running. Type 5. Best friends. To me, a best friend is a person with whom we don't have a problem being honest or vulnerable. It's someone who will never desert you, who keeps no record of wrongs, who doesn't spare your feelings or avoid telling you what you need to hear. I have 2 best friends. One is Ken, whom I met in the military. Our having gone through difficult experiences has bonded us for life. The other is Amanda. We love having long conversations that can wander everywhere and nowhere. Sometimes we talk for hours. We both love being listened to. Other times we like being together without saying much of anything. I would have a hard time living without my 2 best friends, but it's important to have the others too.
Unit 8, page 136. Exercise 7. Listening.
Hello?
Hello, may I speak with Jane Travanti?
This is Jane.
Jane, my name is Brian Hansen. I got your number from the website. I'm interested in joining your orienteering club and getting to know some people. Would you mind giving me some information about your club and about becoming a member?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Are you new in town?
Yeah, I've been here about 5 months and haven't really met anyone. I feel like I need to stop working so much so that I can enjoy myself more.
Have you ever done any orienteering before?
No, I haven't. Do you need to be experienced?
Not necessarily. You can learn. We've got several different levels of participants. You do need to be in good physical condition.
Well, I haven't been doing much exercising lately, but I think I'm basically in good physical shape. So can you give me some details? How often do you go orienteering and where do you go? Stuff like that?
Well, we try to go at least twice a month, normally on Saturdays. Usually we go to the Sherwood Forest area. Sometimes we only manage to go once a month, but most months it's at least twice. In the summer, we get around by fast hiking, but right now we navigate by cross-country skiing. Do you know how to ski?
I tried cross-country skiing a couple of years ago, but I haven't done it since then. I did pretty well at it, though. I still have my skis.
Great. Let's see. What else? The group is pretty diverse. There are some married people and their older kids, some singles, all ages. But we're an actual club. We have dues of $40 a year. That's to pay for organizing the activities. Sounds like you'd enjoy the club. It's a good way to make friends. The members really enjoy being together.
Sounds good to me. When's your next activity?
We're meeting on Saturday morning, the 15th, at 6 a.m. in front of Darcy's coffee shop in Stapleton. We'll get to the forest by carpooling. Do you know where Darcy's is?
I think so, but I can use my GPS if I have any trouble finding it.
Okay, good. Don't forget to bring your skis, and remember to bring a lunch, hopefully with a lot of high-protein stuff in it.
Super. I'll see you on the 15th at 6 a.m. Thanks a lot.
Sure. I'll look forward to meeting you in person. Bye.
Unit 9, page 140. Read.
Seize the day. Picture this scenario. It's late Sunday afternoon. Jane is making dinner. Ben needs the paperwork for this year's taxes. It has to be given to the accountant tomorrow.
Jane, have you got the paperwork ready for the taxes? I have to take it to the accountant first thing in the morning.
Ben, the Garcias are coming in about an hour. I'm trying to get dinner into the oven. I can't stop to find the paperwork now.
But, honey, I've got to have it. You said you'd do it.
Why didn't you tell me you needed it tonight? I didn't know I had to get it together so soon.
I really did plan to remind you about it, but I forgot to. What are we going to do? Can't you stop for a little while?
If I stop cooking, I won't have enough time to finish before the Garcias get here. Tell you what, you go look for it, and if you can't find it, I'll help you later this evening.
Does this kind of situation ring a bell? It illustrates the problem of procrastination. I interviewed psychiatrist Robert Stevens to find out more about this problem. Dr. Stevens, I want to ask you if there's such a thing as a procrastination syndrome.
Well, I don't know if we can call it a syndrome, but procrastination is widespread and can be a very serious problem for some people.
Can we start with a definition of procrastination?
Of course. To procrastinate is literally to put things off until tomorrow. It's a postponing of events until a later time. But unlike the word postpone, which has a neutral sense, the word procrastinate has a negative connotation. There are sometimes good reasons to postpone things, but never to procrastinate. Procrastinating has the sense of avoidance.
All right. Now, what causes people to procrastinate? Laziness?
That's a popular idea, but I'd have to say that laziness isn't the major cause. No, I think that fear is really the most important force that motivates people to put things off.
Fear. Can you explain?
Well, procrastinators want to live up to other people's expectations. They're afraid to fail or make mistakes. Or maybe they don't want to be rejected. Interestingly, Procrastination has nothing to do with education. Some of the most learned people are among the worst procrastinators.
What would be an example of that?
Well, let's see. Suppose a professor, a woman we'll call Blanche, has been planning a lecture. She's mentioned the lecture to colleagues but hasn't told them the time and date it will take place, which would be the straightforward thing to do. Either consciously or subconsciously, she expects to fail, so she delays telling people until the very last moment. Her colleagues expected her to have told them before now. When she didn't, they forgot about the event and made other plans. It's too short notice for most of them to come. Blanche's fear has caused things to turn out like this. She feels bad about it, but she doesn't know how to change.
Well, what if a procrastinator would like to change? What would you advise that person to do?
Getting a procrastinator to change can be a tough nut to crack. But I recommend 3 principles for my clients. The first is never to put off until tomorrow what needs to be done today. Not to avoid painful or difficult things is the second. They're part of life. The third is contained in the Latin phrase carpe diem, seize the day. I try to consider every experience an opportunity. I don't want people to take unnecessary or foolish risks, but I do advise them not to put off living. They may not get another chance.
Well, Dr. Stevens, thanks for a stimulating discussion.